Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, who have been a part of our journey since the very beginning. So thank you, Folgers. We appreciate you so very much. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, Dr. Snick, a.k.a. the Sonic Surgeon, for his contribution of his music and his voice for our intro and outro. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found anywhere that good music can be found. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, big thank you for our amazing artwork. That goes to Steve McGinnis, an amazing artist. Does a lot of custom stuff, people. Check him out on Facebook. So tonight, we welcome, for the very first time, John, and I'm hoping I'm not pulverizing this, John Kachuba. I hope I said that right. For the very first time. And he's going to be discussing his book, Shapeshifters, A History. So I've always been curious about that, and I'm really looking forward to what he's got to say about it. In order to participate with all of us, you're going to have to head over to the usual, which is, let's chime them off. That's going to be YouTube, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials, UFO Paranormal Radio, Outer Realm Radio. Then we get over to Facebook, News on the Flip Side, UFO Paranormal Radio, United Public Radio, The Outer Realm, Canada's Most Haunted, and Joe Montaldo, UFO Undercover. So that is where you guys can chime in. And if you like it, come on, show us some support, subscribe, join, like, follow, whatever the case may be. Just show us some support. We bring you some amazing entertainment and some amazing guests. And we have a really good lineup coming up over the next couple of months. And already 2023 is already booking. So we can see everyone's in the chat room slowly chiming in. Dolly, wow, where you been? And Preston's just keeping you working overtime. Zach, man. Wowzers. So, Bubbly Boo, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I was a little bit. Are you sure?
It's like it's not even winter yet, and you're fighting with the damn cold for weeks, and you still have to move on. So, it's just a cold. That's all I keep telling myself.
We're damn champions. That's why we're both sick. We're both here. We're both,
Yeah.
So,
I'm excited to be here. I mean, if I'm going to be sick, I might as well be having fun. But it's just,
I say. That's
I haven't seen a cold in 3 years, so it's a little weird.
Yeah,
I forgot what it feels like.
You can't count the sea thingy. That's just a whole other animal in itself. So
I know.
It's actually kind of nice to have just a standard cold, even if it hangs on for life.
Oh, it's so hilarious. I called my doctor because I needed something refilled, and I'm like, okay, so like this cold, like I'm going on like 16 days now.
Yeah.
And all I get back is, colds linger, right? And I'm like, whatever.
What, forever?
I forgot. It takes time. And the more you do while you have it, the longer it's going to take. Well, then it's probably going to be here for about a month because my life isn't stopping anytime soon. But whatever. Welcome the fall. I think it's the crazy weather, and it's freezing today, and it's supposed to be hot this weekend.
It's 27 with Dolly.
Yeah, it's 27. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like
27, like 27 Celsius.
No, she's in Georgia. So that's probably
Yeah, but maybe
US.
she changed it for us. Or
Well,
27,
maybe.
like below 0. It's under
Below
32.
zero.
No, like meaning it's 27 degrees
For us.
Fahrenheit, which would be below 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not that. I'm guessing she changed it to Celsius and it's really damn hot down there. But it's freezing here. We have the same temperatures going on as upstate New York. It's pretty cold.
It's cold for now, but it's going to
It's
warm
cold
up on the
today and it's
weekend. This
rainy.
is a good thing. This is a good thing.
Yeah.
Do we want to read a bio? Because I am.
See,
Yeah,
she had it
says,
in
yep,
Celsius. Yeah. I love you, Dolly.
Oh, wow.
I love you so much, but that was not nice. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I do love her.
I've fired this off. We're waiting for a guest. So
okay, I will read what I have here ready.
Yes.
I actually sent it to myself. Yes.
Oh,
John
hey,
Kachuba is and I'm praying we're not butchering his name. John Kachuba is the award-winning author of 12 books of fiction and nonfiction. His most recent work, Shapeshifters, A History, was published in June 2019 and was a finalist in the Horror Writers Association Bram Stoker Award. Pretty impressive. John holds MA degrees in creative writing. He is a frequent speaker at conferences, universities, and libraries, as well as on podcasts, radio, and television. So are we ready?
Waiting.
Yay.
I know. And here he is. Hello. How are
Hi.
you?
Hi, ladies.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you both doing?
Well, we're both sick. We're
yeah,
okay.
but we're good. We're excited. We're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to be a little giddy. So this might be just extra entertainment for you.
Yeah, that's okay.
There we go. So wow, all these years we've been like Facebook friends, and you never get to see anything in the stream like social media. The whole platform just keeps you from seeing the majority of your friends.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you come up, and this book, I'm like, how the heck did I miss all this? It's like nobody lets me see anything. So. I've been super excited about this because it's just one of those things that I've always been very intrigued with when you talk about shapeshifters, because a lot of people believe it's the being or entity or individual in question which projects how they want you to see them, not so much that this can actually happen. And it's, I'm sure it's like that in some cases, but there's a lot of folklore that comes from the old world that's made its way into this side of the world. And it's really not at all like that, is it?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, for the book Shapeshifters, I was actually in 7 different countries throughout Europe.
Wow.
I was in Western Europe. I was in France, Italy, Portugal. Then I went to the eastern part, Eastern Europe, and I was in Belarus, Ukraine, Romania. And the sad thing is that was like 2019. I watched the news from Ukraine now, and I'm looking at these cities and said, I was there 3 years ago now. And I'm Ukrainian American as well. So
yeah, it's difficult. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It's got to be hard.
It's just a mess. But to your point, I mean, what I found out was that when we think of shapeshifters, we think of sort of the quintessential, the werewolf and the vampire, where somebody physically changes form, right? Like this monster of some kind. But what I discovered in my research was that in cultures all around the world, almost every culture has some kind of a shapeshifter character in it, if not several. And frequently, it's not so much that there's actually this sort of physical monstrous kind of transformation as much as it's more an internal sort of psychological change. But to your point also, it allows whoever can do this, it allows them sort of the ability to make people think and see what they're not really seeing or really thinking.
Mm.
In other words, they sort of create this image.
Right.
There's a great example. There's a guy in Ohio here where I live, and his name actually is Guy. So when I say Guy, it's Guy.
It's for real.
Yeah.
It's Guy Savelli.
Oh, so he's Gaetano.
Do you know? I don't know if you know this guy, but
no, I'm just saying he's Italian, so he's Gaetano. Sorry, it's just like yeah. That's a tough one to pronounce, right?
Yeah, my other half is Sicilian, so I get it.
I'm married to a Sicilian. Good Lord. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm great cookies.
Gallardo and my mother's side.
Nice.
But, so Guy was he's this master of a rare form of martial arts, but he also does this mind control thing. And he's worked with like the Navy SEALs and different special ops groups, military things. And you may remember there was a book years ago, and I might mess up the title, but it's something like Men That Stare at Goats.
Men That Stare at Goats.
There's a film.
Yes. Yeah, there's a movie. Right, exactly. Yes. And it's about the power of your mind to literally do things.
Yeah.
And Guy was the person who was in part of these studies. And he had said that from 50 yards away, he was in an enclosed room, and they literally had a goat out in the meadow somewhere 50 yards away. And he would concentrate on it and think about it. Next thing you know, the goat just fell over, knocked it out. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. Didn't kill it, just knocked it out. But so Guy does this martial arts stuff, and he has students, he teaches them. And one of his students told me this story that he said he and Guy were in a bar, just, hanging out, having a drink after class or whatever. And some guy came up to a different guy.
The guy.
Guys in this story, by the way. All right. A fellow approached them, and this person was drunk, and he was drunk and he was obnoxious, and he was in Guy's face. He didn't know who Guy was, but just like, hey, buddy, whatever it was, just typical drunk.
Yeah.
So Guy just stood up and he looked at him, and the student was standing there watching this, and he's thinking, oh man, there's going to be this fight, because this drunk is in his face. And he was a big burly guy, The student says, well, next thing I know, I'm looking at Guy, and he said, I don't know how to explain it. He said, but the guy's face just changed. And he said, instead of looking at Guy, he said, I was seeing like a tiger. Right. And next thing you know, the drunk, his eyes open up and his face gets white, and he just kind of backs off and goes, okay. And he walks off, and that was it. The next thing you know, the guy's saying to his student, let's get another beer, So I said, what was that about? He said, I don't know. He said, I don't know how to explain it. He said, there was some change that came over Guy. He said, I saw it. So going back to the original statement that you mentioned there, Michelle, was Guy able to somehow project this idea that he was something different than just a normal person, a human being? He was able to present the idea of being a monster, an animal, something like that. Whatever it was, it worked,
Right.
So I think that's part of shapeshifting too. And it's something that you don't hear so much about, because it's not fun to talk about somebody sprouting claws and fangs and hair and
it's all pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
We've already got comments and questions chiming in, and we will get to them, but I just want to give John some time to maybe get into it, and he may answer those questions as we go along. But I promise we will get back to the questions for Steve and Michael's comment, which I also think is a great one I'd love to address. So what made you decide then to pick this topic? I mean, I personally think it's fascinating. But I find a lot of things really fascinating. And this is just, I've spent time in Romania. So the whole werewolf thing, and, we all have, our perspectives when it comes to that. And it's the one everybody thinks of first, right? Is the werewolf, or in Michael's case, he's saying skinwalker, which not far off. So we're just going to let you take it away. You'll notice here that we're really open, and it's kind of like round table, just go crazy. And every now and then we'll jump in.
Okay. Well, I started crazy, so we can continue to go crazy.
All right, let's just go crazy. I like it.
So, well, so your question basically, what started this? Two things. I've always, at least for the last I shouldn't say several decades. Well, yeah, I've been around several decades now, but the last couple of decades at least, I've sort of been on this kind of a personal quest. I don't mean it to sound like this big glorious thing, but
it's okay. It's pretty much
trying to find out sort of where I fit in the universe, where I fit among existence. It's sort of a semi-religious, spiritual kind of quest, but within that, I've always believed in personal transformation. And again, I'm not necessarily talking about sprouting fangs because I haven't done that at least in a week.
I can't remember the last time I did that.
But I do believe that we are capable of change, and that everybody's capable of change, and that I try to embrace change when I think it's coming because I don't know where it's going to end up. So it's sort of, in a way, it's kind of shape-shifting. If we go back to the idea of the psychological aspect of shape-shifting, we all do that throughout the course of our life. We take on different roles. We're different people at different times in our life. And that is shape-shifting. So there's that. But then the second part of it was that, my paranormal books that I started off with were all about ghosts and ghost hunting. And I have like 5 of those out. And I do a lot of public speaking at libraries and universities on shows like yours, podcasts, radio shows. And it's always been about ghosts. But I've noticed that frequently when I was in a live audience, people would always tell me their stories afterwards, like, oh man, I had this great ghost story. But often I was hearing stories that to me didn't quite sound like a ghost when they were describing it. Because a lot of times they would say something like, yeah, I saw this figure, this misty figure or whatever, and then it changed and I changed to something else. And I'm starting to think, well, they're talking about shapeshifters. I mean, that's what it sounded like to me. I started hearing more and more from people, just everyday people just tell me these things. So I started thinking, well, there's something into it. And I just started looking into the idea of shapeshifters, just doing some, crazy searches on the internet through libraries, books. And I just became fascinated with the idea that there are so many types, and they go way back. In the book, I talk about one of the earliest representations of a shapeshifter, and it's a cave painting that goes back to the Neolithic times, prehistory, right? Prehistoric stuff.
Wow!
And I have the picture of it in my book. It's it looks basically like a deer, a reindeer, or something. But it's standing up on its hind legs, and it's got front legs kind of out. And if you look at the hooves, the front and back, they're not hooves at all. They're fingers. It's got fingers and toes.
Oh.
Now, I don't know any deer that's got fingers and toes.
No.
Right? No. The eyes on it, too, are forward like ours instead of being to the side like deer. Yeah. So what anthropologists, and it's got antlers. So what anthropologists believe is that this is a representation of a shaman who was doing basically shamanic magic. So if you can imagine, he's in a cave somewhere and he's got a group of hunters gathered around him. They're all going to go out on the hunt for deer or whatever animal it was.
Right.
So he gets them in some kind of a, chanting, or they get their energy worked up. They get into kind of a state. And at the same time, they're probably using some hallucinogenics of some kind from the environment, mushrooms.
Yeah.
Really, right?
And so,
So what happens then is they literally start to believe that they're deer now too. So if you're a deer and you're trying to kill a deer, it's pretty easy if you're one just to walk up to one, right?
Be one with the deer.
Yeah, there you go. Right. You're one with the deer. So it seems like that, I mean, again, did these hunters really change into deer? I'm going to bet probably not. But they certainly felt that they did. They certainly believed that they did. It's the same thing like if you look at going back to some maybe around the year 1100, 10th century, 11th century. If you look at the Icelandic countries, the Scandinavian countries, the warriors, the berserkers. Berserkers, we get our name berserk, going crazy, from these guys, from berserkers. That's where our word comes from. And they were basically warriors that would break up into, there was a bear clan, a wolf clan, I think there was some other kind, but they would literally wear the pelts of these animals when they went into battle. And just like these ancient cavemen, they too would take hallucinogenics. And so they would put themselves in this frenzy, believing again that they were bears, that they were wolves, and they'd go into battle like that. And the kings, various kings that were using them, used them as shock troops. They put them up front because they knew that they were just going to wreak havoc on the enemy and create all kinds of terror, because they would be in this murderous rage because of the drugs and because of what they believed they had transformed into.
Oh, like berserkers sort of thing. Like,
yeah, that's exactly what they were. Yeah,
like just like they were just like spun.
Yeah, you went crazy. And it was so bad that if you were an ally of these guys, when they went into battle, you made sure that you stood way behind them, because when they started swinging their swords and axes and whatever was in their path went down.
They're always in the front lines, right?
Yeah. They had no distinction. They got to a point after a while where the various kings kind of made, sort of informal treaties among each other. Okay, if we go to war again, none of us use berserkers, okay? They couldn't control them.
They see red.
It's how crazy.
Yeah, they just see red. They're tunnel vision, and it's just...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just the fact that when we talk about somebody going berserk, we really mean going crazy, right? Going nuts. And that's what it came from.
For real.
Literally, off your top.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put comments up as we're talking. That's all. We didn't address them. We're going to get to the questions. Steve, you've got great questions too. We'll get there. I promise. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. So yeah, I guess that would be, that would be somewhat frightening to see these guys coming at you full on.
Yeah. Yeah. And they went crazy. And just the way they looked. I mean, physically, like I said, they would wear the pelts. So if they're a bear, they'd wear a big bear skin. They'd have the bear head on top of their own. I mean, just looking at them, you'd say, no, thanks.
Right. Yeah, we're good.
Go get a coffee. I'll be back.
Right.
So if they were,
the fight's over.
Sorry, if they were on ayahuasca, then they would perceive them as actual monsters, as actual transformations. Okay.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
I think if you look at a lot of shapeshifters, especially in some indigenous cultures, there's frequently drugs, natural occurring drugs being used to put yourself in that kind of a state where you believe that you've transformed. I talk about, in the book, I mentioned some of the Bushmen in the Kalahari in Africa, and they talk about how there's some interviews with these guys, and they talk about how they transform themselves into various African animals, cheetahs, lions, tigers. And it's the same thing. They say, I ingest this stuff, but I know that's how I bring out the animal. So they don't actually think that, how would I say it? They don't really feel like they're hallucinating or anything. They feel like they are actually truly bringing out the animal that is truly inside them, but that this is how they do it, through these, hallucinogenic agents.
Right. That is craziness. Okay, so before we get too far and down, I don't want to go too far up the list, but let's talk the North American or indigenous people from around the world, because some of these questions are going to go based on that. And of course, Michael had put this one up. So,
Skinwalker,
yeah. What are your thoughts on? Sorry, Amelia, go ahead.
No, I just said hi, Michael. Skinwalker. I just said, what are you doing my job?
All right. So what are your thoughts on skinwalkers? Because I know we've had reports up here, like anywhere from all throughout North America, Canada, United States. What are your thoughts? Do they fall into the shapeshifter, or just something entirely different?
Yeah, it depends on, in a lot of ways, depends on who you're talking to. Skinwalkers are an indigenous type. They are shapeshifters, almost every culture, but there's different cultures that look at them a little bit differently, especially in the Southwest of America. The Dene people, the Navajo, the Utes, a lot of these different nations in the Southwest have a belief in a skinwalker. And for the most part, they consider a skinwalker to be a bruja, a witch, that then transforms itself into usually something pretty murderous. And frequently it's like a coyote or a wolf or something along those lines. And once they do that, their whole intention is is evil. I mean, if you summon a skinwalker, or you want a skinwalker to go to work for you, basically what you're asking for probably is some type of revenge or vengeance on somebody or something, and the skinwalker will do it for you. However, a lot of these cultures believe that if you engage with the skinwalker to do something like that, chances are he's going to come back at you as well.
Right.
Which is actually one of the reasons why a lot of people among the various nations don't even want to talk about a skinwalker.
I've seen interviews. You're right. They're very hesitant.
Oh yeah. Because for them, I mean, they really believe that it's out there.
Right.
And in a way, they don't know who it could be or where. So I'm not even going to talk about it. I don't have anything to do with it. I won't even talk about it.
It's kind of the way Catholic. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it. Thank you. I was going to say it's kind of the way Catholics look at demons in that sense, like real devout. It's you don't want to talk about it. You're afraid to call it in. That's what I've noticed when I watch, because I do watch an Indigenous channel that all they do is talk about spirits, and it's all about hauntings and investigations. And I love seeing their culture and the way they, they deal and hearing the stories.
Right.
But I want to tell you, skinwalkers scare me.
Yeah, well, they should.
Yeah, they really scare me.
They're similar to the Wendigo.
I was just going to say, so up in the northern part of
Canada's got Wendigo.
Like Minnesota, Wisconsin, and among the Cree people up in Canada and all that is the Wendigo, which also is a shapeshifter. But it's a little bit different character. The skinwalker, let's see, how would I say? It's the skinwalker begins as a shaman. I mean, a living flesh and blood shaman. Whereas goes, for the most part, most native people believe that it's a spirit that was human at one time, but that is now a spirit that becomes a Wendigo. And frequently they say, like, suicides, people that commit suicides can become Wendigo. And the Wendigo almost universally are cannibals, which is a nice touch. Let's add that in there too.
That's great.
That's probably why I don't like doing, going snowshoeing and stuff like that.
Well,
give them a
that is
bubble
scary. Oh my gosh.
So again, they're another bad spirit you don't want to mess with. But yeah, and there's been, especially with skinwalkers, there's been sightings. I mean, there are people that, truck drivers and everything else that are on these desert highways going through Arizona and New Mexico for 8 miles, 800 miles or whatever. And they'll be looking out their window. They're driving 90 miles an hour and look out the window, and there's some wolf loping around, keeping pace with them. And people have had that kind of sort of experience, with skinwalkers like that.
That's interesting. A wolf loping. We have experiences like that up here. They just look like long, lanky things with these long, lanky arms, and they're very thin and long snouts. But I would not have thought that was fell into the skinwalker description.
Well, that's like I say, when you hear about stories, especially from the Southwest of America, it tends to be that kind of a kind of an animal.
Well, one went running right up the street here just a few years ago.
Really?
Now I'm kind of like, oh, shit.
There's a lot of sightings there where she is.
Yeah. But I would not have thought that until you just said it. I'm like, shit, it's not what I thought it was.
So it's not dogmen? Is that I'm learning about all of this
stuff.
Well,
dogmen are interesting too. And most of those, again, most of the reports, I don't know a whole lot about dogmen because it's kind of a recent thing, and there are reports, but not a lot. But they seem also to come from sort of the upper Midwest primarily. And I'm not sure why. That's at least in the stories that I've heard. It's been like Minnesota, Wisconsin,
they're up here as well. Yeah.
But it's amazing because the dogmen, every description I've heard is that they have a human form, but a dog head. That's all I've ever heard is that they have a dog head, but a human form. Right. And I'm thinking I would not want to be the dogman that ends up with the head of a chihuahua. I mean, I'm just saying.
No. Fierce little things that they are, but it would be a little awkward looking.
Not too scary,
Before we get too far ahead, Steve's got two questions that
Sure.
pertaining to Native Americans. So we'll start with this one.
Hello, Steve White. Question is it more common for ancestors within the Native Americans to shapeshift?
The ancestors within the Native American. I'm not sure I understand what ancestors is. I mean, it's still common. The belief is still there today. With contemporary Indians.
Yeah.
Okay, he said the only reason I'm asking is I don't think it's too common for anyone to have the ability to shapeshift, but it is huge within the Native Americans.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think he's right in that it's not a very common thing. Maybe the question is commonality. That's why I was saying skinwalkers are frequently shamans, for the most part, or witches. They're not just anybody. So there are certain people that have that ability, and how they have that ability, I have no idea. But it's, I guess that's the best way to look at it. Consider them sorcerers or however you want to call it, but it would be a very small percentage for sure of people that would have that ability to shift. Yet the community, the Native American community, they would know that, there's shapeshifters out there.
Thank you, John. You're the first person to have explained that to me where I could actually grasp it, like understand more. So thank you for that. Zachman says, on Navajo Nation here in Arizona, the Navajo won't talk to the outsiders about skinwalkers because they believe it'll attract them.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, I mean, exactly.
And Howie, hi Howie. May I add, this is very common belief among Saxons as well as the Celts. Yeah. Yes. Hi Howie.
Skinwalkers or just shapeshifters? I wonder what he means.
I think shapeshifters or skinwalkers. Howie.
Well, I mean, like I said, shapeshifters are in every culture. It's just I was amazed at the variety of shapeshifters. I go into this thinking, as I said, the quintessential, werewolf, vampire, skinwalkers, 4 or 5 that you can name right away. But I found literally hundreds of different kinds of shapeshifters that some of them are just unbelievable.
Right.
Hello, Lynn Ann Bowling. I love Lynn Ann. Not sure what it exactly was. Had deer and other smaller animals. Oh, we're missing the first part of this. Her daughter saw something. There it is. My daughter saw. It goes really fast. My daughter saw a possible shapeshifter at Flint Creek Ranch in Texas. It was crazy. And then thank you, Michelle. Not sure what it was exactly. Had deer and other smaller animals with it, watching her group from the tree line. Really? That description is very close to what she saw. Tall, white, long, skinny limbs. Wow. Well, yeah, because they cut you off when you're writing, right? They only allow so many characters.
Plus, we have 8 different chat rooms all simultaneously funneling. It's like a super highway that comes down 3 lanes, So we'll get to the ET part of it soon, I promise. So, okay. So, I mean, up here in Canada, because we do stream to New Orleans, but we're actually in Canada, and we have what are called wolf people. Okay. And these are full on wolves that walk upright. And there have been people who have given me these descriptions, and they report these wolves just walking like normal animals, normal wolves, and all of a sudden they stop, they get up, and they walk. And many reports. So I don't know. Are we talking? Would that be a shapeshifter? Would that be a type of cryptid or dimensional being, an extraterrestrial?
Right. Yeah, it's hard to say, right? I mean, it could be a cryptid. I mean, if you don't see it actually transform, you can't say for sure it's a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
But wolves don't typically walk around on 2 legs, right? We know that. And that reminds me of a story that's in my book from India.
Okay.
An area called Uttar Pradesh. It's kind of a big province in India. And I guess I'm trying to think of the year. It was like maybe 1992. I mean, it's modern. It was a story from the New York Times. They actually had a reporter up there because 33 children went missing over the course of a year or so from that area.
Oh, wow.
And when they found them, they were they were killed and mauled and
Yeah.
everything else.
Oh.
Well, there are wolves in that area, so people are thinking wolves, but to kill that many people, they got a little crazy. And in fact, some of the villagers started accusing other villagers of being, shapeshifters and sorcerers and creating all this stuff.
Oh
And
my
actually,
God.
there was some mob violence. They killed some innocent
Wow.
villagers, thinking they were doing it. So the Indian government actually called in the army and sent troops up there to put, calm things down. This is a true story that was all reported in the New York Times, and I trust that. I trust that newspaper, right? But they interviewed some of the people, the local people who had experienced this stuff. And there was one interview from a girl who was maybe 12 or 13. And she said that she saw her little brother, who was like 3 years old. She said, I saw him carried off by this thing. Now, you talked about wolf people. Well, they were calling them man wolves, not wolf men. They're calling them man wolves.
Man wolves. Okay.
Yeah. And she said that this thing was like a big wolf, but it ran on two legs, like you're saying. It ran upright. And here's the crazy thing is that she saw this, that it took her brother and threw her brother over its shoulder and ran off on two legs carrying it like that. Well, that's more than a wolf.
That's more than a wolf.
No wolf can do that,
That's a lot of strength.
That's
it was crazy. And eventually, the killings all stopped after a while, and nobody really knows why they stopped. There was no cause. They didn't find anything to cause this other than these children were killed and those witnesses saying that this is what they saw. Her uncle, this girl's uncle, who was also interviewed, she said, the government wants us to say that it was just wolves. But he said it wasn't, That's not what it was. He said they were man wolves.
Yeah, that's frightening.
It's in our time period. Well, 90s, maybe not your period, my period for sure.
Right. No, absolutely.
It's my time.
Yeah, exactly.
I moved into this house in 93. I want to look that up. That is so crazy and so sad. That it makes sense that they turned on each other, though. It makes sense, especially when you have that kind of belief in that. Oh my gosh.
Right.
It must have been so scary for them. So,
we've certainly had mass hysteria, witch trials, and it wouldn't be the first time that people just had a little hysterical and went out on other people.
Absolutely. So sad. Hi, Tamara. Tamara's our third host. What if they don't shift but project that image to others?
Right. Which is what we talked about earlier before. That's a possibility that there really is no physical transformation happening. But it's like mind control, it's projection, however you want to call it. Magic. Think of a magician, the stage magician, right? He makes you see things that aren't really happening, right? Or makes you believe things that aren't happening. He's floating through the air or something. He can't possibly do it, but you're watching him do that.
Yes. Realistically, shape-shifting with projecting, again, we're assuming projecting, like when you look back to the gods, you look back to just ancient history per se, there was a lot of talk of things like that. And I think, we have to ask ourselves, is this something that they were just projecting us as to how they want us to see us? Right. Extraterrestrial seems to, can they, again, that's a really big thing now as we talk about shapeshiftings. Are they shapeshifters, or are they just projecting how they want us to see them?
Right. Which makes sense, because if you're trying to make whatever kind of contact you're trying to make with an alien race, us being the alien race as they're coming down, you have to somehow assimilate, right? You can't appear with 8 tentacles and 14 eyes and expect us to go, hey, would you like some coffee?
Folgers, please.
I'm just exactly. No, that's not going to happen. So it's very possible that, I suppose aliens could be among us even now and taking on that guy. Well, there's that reptilian alien shapeshifter theory from David Icke in England.
Yeah,
it's exactly that.
Yes.
That these are reptiles. But Michelle, to your point about gods, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because in the book, it's subtitled A History. Well, it's history, but it's pop psychology, and there's a lot of things there besides just history. But I do talk about some of the ancients, like the Greeks and Roman societies. And if you look at, like the Greeks, for instance, Zeus is the number one god, right? He's the god of gods. He's the supreme god. If you look at the Greek legends and like Ovid's Metamorphosis and all this stuff, the very title, Metamorphosis, Zeus transforms himself into probably 12 or 13 or 14 different types of people, or sometimes women, sometimes men, animals. He does this frequently throughout the Greek mythology. And he does that. It seems like every time he does it, it's to, I'll say this casually,
seduce,
to get a date.
Okay, he's trying to get a date.
I thought that was Hades.
That's a technique.
It's his other brother.
But what makes sense, though, when I think about it, for the longest time, I thought, well, that was, that's kind of a hard way to go, to, change yourself into a bull or something. Just, but it turns out, that the reason for that is because in his true form as supreme God, no human being would have been able to stand that. They couldn't look at him. They could not even be in his presence, because he was so magnificent, so overwhelming. Which again, powerful. So he had to come down to some way that he can relate.
Right.
I'm still not sure being a bull is the best way, but
I feel like you're a bull.
I mean, he also transformed himself. Well, he also transformed himself into an ant at one point. So,
right.
I would do bull over ant.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Well, I don't know. You think about Ant-Man. They did really well with his story. I'm not making light of it. Like, you think about it, Marvel took a lot from theology. So, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
But,
Shapeshifters. I mean, almost every superhero, whether it's Marvel, DC, or whoever they are, almost every one of them transforms, right? I mean, Superman, the guy's got a suit. Why is it going to a phone booth all the time and take a
I think it's because it was the decency, because of the times when it was written. Because actually, Superman was written by a Canadian. So I think that's what happened. It was like, and it was during the war and everything. So I think it was just like, it's indecent to just, change. So it was a way of cover and a way of mystery. Like, he goes in, Doctor Who uses a phone booth, but he travels, So I think that's what that was. I remember learning the heritage and the story of that in school, but I don't remember all of it. I think it had a lot to do with the war. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was on a train going home when he wrote the story. I wish I knew the gentleman's name, but that it is amazing how they all transform.
Yeah. And again, depending on what you're talking about, transformation. I mean, how broadly we're using that definition, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, Wonder Woman has to spin around.
Oh, I love her.
Well, I had to say, I met Linda Carter years ago, and I said, "Oh yeah, wow, okay."
She flies an invisible plane. I mean, come on. They knew about aliens before we did. Think about it.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Cloaked. It's like a cloak, right? She flew an invisible plane, but you couldn't see her.
Right.
Exactly.
They got all these little things inserted in there. Did you want me to read Steve? Okay, Steve White. Hello, Steve again. Perhaps it was Ancient Aliens with somebody tonight, the Native Americans, on how to have the ability to shapeshift. It was Ancient Aliens with somebody taught or tonight?
Oh, they taught it.
Somebody taught. Sorry, my eyesight.
Yeah, they taught it to the Native
Americans. I apologize.
Yeah.
Right. So if we look at that David Icke's story about reptilian aliens coming to this planet, according to him, they came millions of years ago. before there was even, Homo sapiens. I mean, they came to the planet and apparently mated with whatever sort of proto-humans were running around.
Right.
So that goes way back. They certainly
Anunnaki, Nephilim, and
right.
yeah, I agree.
Wow.
Being in Romania, did you go to Brasov, and where they talked about the story of on the full moon, how the wolves will come down on a full moon and walk among the courtyard?
Oh, I did not hear that story.
On the full moon. So, and then when you go back to the lore, of course, on the full moon, when the wolf changes or people change, it's quite, I found it to be quite interesting. When you were in Romania and you did some research there, what type of folklore did you hear with respects to shapeshifters?
Well, I was doing mostly the vampire.
Oh, the vampires. I like that. Yeah, that's
because
great.
I mean, Dracula's home, right?
It is. It is.
So I went to all the sites that were associated with Vlad Tepes, Vlad the Impaler, who was the actual prince in the
That's right.
Middle Ages. That Bram Stoker, when he wrote Dracula, people think that he could have been a model for his Count Dracula, because Tepes has, if anybody knows about it, I mean, this guy was bloodthirsty. I mean, he killed thousands of people, enemy armies, as well as political dissidents, by impaling them. That's a tough way to go.
But impalement was a sign of those times too. I mean, all over Europe they were impaling.
Yeah, right. And I think in some ways that Vlad gets a bad rap because he was bloodthirsty, but I don't think he was more bloodthirsty than a whole lot of other medieval princes and kings.
He learned it from the Turks.
He was protecting his village. Yeah.
Exactly.
Because he was sent to he spent his youth in the court of the Turks and watched what they were doing and said, "Oh, that looks like fun."
Yeah, exactly. It was all over Europe at the time. Yeah, so exactly. Adriana is.
I loved how
Adriana. Sorry, go ahead, John.
And I loved how so many people think that he was like this vampire, Vlad, and everything else, and legends grew up about him because of his bloodthirstiness, being a vampire. But I remember going to his burial site, his grave supposedly. And did you go out there at all? So it's this beautiful little chapel on an island in the middle of a lake. It's a gorgeous setting. But then you go out there and you stand by this grave in this chapel. Yeah. And then you realize that it's empty. I mean, it is. Apparently in the 30s or something, anthropologists opened it up and there wasn't anybody in there, which makes you think like, okay, is he really a vampire? Is he I
know.
Where is he?
The allure continues.
I mean, if you're not in your grave,
I know. Yeah, that Snagov Monastery is very beautiful.
That was a great trip.
Did you bring salt with you?
I didn't.
I would have.
But sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm done.
They do truly believe. I mean, a lot of the older culture, they do believe that vampires were a thing. I tend to think, okay, are they shape-shifting, as you say? There's a lot of, even look at, the Count Saint-Germain out of New Orleans, who went from France and literally, I mean, he's hundreds of years old and is last seen, like, I think it was the 80s in New Orleans. And, is this somebody, how do you transcend time like that, even through shape-shifting? Because that gets you into a whole other aspect of it. It's beyond just shape-shifting. It's just like immortality practically.
Right.
But they believe it. A lot of ancient European people truly believe that.
Right. So, well, I did find in Romania, besides going to the Dracula sites, I spent some time in a small village in Transylvania. My church here in Cincinnati actually has a partner church in Transylvania in this little village. Very nice. So we spent time with people and stuff. And in talking to them, interesting, because there is, to your point, there is still a belief among some of them in these old ways, and that vampires are a possibility. And I think it depends sort of on who you're talking to, because in Transylvania, a lot of the people there are actually ethnic Hungarian, not Romanian, because at one part it was part of Hungary. And actually, there's this whole political sort of thing between Romanians and Hungarians in Romania. Hungarian kids have to learn Romanian in the school. They can't be taught Hungarian. There's a lot of discrimination. And so depending on who you're talking to there, it's interesting. The beliefs are, the Hungarians going to think of vampires as being more a Romanian thing because that's bad. The Romanians don't like them. The Romanians, it's weird, but it starts to become political, and these things go back, ethnic and political. So it's not just folklore. I mean, it enters into their everyday lives in some way. I think it's pretty fascinating.
It is. It is.
Sorry. Thank you, Steve White. Have a good night. He needs to run out and get some Metallic. I gather you've been on my timeline on Facebook today. Thank you for joining us, Steve. Thanks for participating.
Always getting Italian food. Ooh.
Yeah. I take pictures when I cook. I'm terrible. But that's so sad how politics affects the folklore. And it's also funny, not funny in a ha-ha way, but funny how they're careful about what they accept as being theirs, and even with monsters, it's incredible. Oh, such history over there, incredible, rich history.
So let's get back to your book. You talk about many different types of shape-shifting. Let's talk about curses.
Okay.
Let's talk about curses. No, because people that may not have a choice.
Yeah.
When they're found, and
right.
A curse would be a non-choice.
Exactly. And I do talk about, I call them voluntary or involuntary shapeshifters. And so voluntary shapeshifters are like a vampire, let's say, who has that ability to just transform himself. And there's a lot of voluntary shapeshifters, skinwalker, people who can actually people are beings, whatever, that have that power. But then there's the involuntary ones, and they usually are a curse. I mean, you're exactly right. Think of all the fairy tales. Think of like Beauty and the Beast, for instance. A handsome prince who is this beast because there was a witch that cursed him. Yeah. But then, of course, in all these fairy tales, it's always a beautiful young maiden that rescues by saying, "I love you. I can see, I can see your soul, and you're really a good person." Well, that breaks the curse, right? And he comes back as a prince. So it's very common. It's common in mythology and in fairy tales and folk tales that there's a curse involved in shapeshifting, and there's different ways of getting out of it. I spent some time in Portugal when I was doing research. There's an interesting shapeshifter there called it's two words, Mudis Encantada, which literally translates out roughly in Portuguese to an enchanted Moor, somebody, a Moorish, what would you call it? Like an Ottoman, a Moor from Africa, North Africa, because they had Portugal as well as they had Spain for centuries.
Right.
And these were always women. They were young women, and they were always rich. And the stories were always that their fathers left them behind in Portugal to guard their treasure while they went back to the old country for whatever reason. But that's a curse because their shape, they're snakes. And they guard the treasure as snakes. But the curse can be broken by a young guy. It's kind of the reverse thing. Here you have a cursed woman, a beautiful young woman, rich. We could say like a princess in a way, right?
Right.
It's a young guy who would break the spell because if he comes across this snake, which has a woman's head, by the way, snake body, woman's head, the snake will ask them to do something like, wait for me here for a day, and you'll get all kinds of wonderful things. And if the guy waits or something, then the spell's lifted, and she becomes this beautiful woman. and the guy marries her, and they live happily ever after, and they're rich.
Right.
There's always some kind of a catch, a question, something, and it's usually very simple. And a lot of guys, the stories say nah, and so they leave, and this poor girl is still got a snake's body and
right.
Head, you know. But
yeah.
that was a whole new story. I had no idea about that kind of a shapeshifter or whatever. That was totally like, okay, that's a new one. Well,
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the European cultures have their fair share of stories on, shape-shifting. They're such old cultures. And then, of course, they move or relocate to this side of the world, and all that comes with them. But I think we have our own. I mean, of course, primarily we have a lot of indigenous stories here that seem to just keep growing. Like, I don't know. I'm sick, so I'm foggy headed, but the Wendigo seems to be the big one on this side of the world, I think. But we do have, we talk about lycanthropes, like full on. Like, what is your version of that? Like, when you speak about that in your book, is this the total physical transformation? Teeth come out, hair comes out, bones are breaking. But what kind of and I mean, there are pictures that I have seen throughout North America, and it looks like it is a full-on what we would call a werewolf or wolf man. So this is beyond like wolf people, like skinwalkers. This is big, muscular beings.
Yeah.
Full-on head of a wolf, snout, everything.
Well, so when I talk about werewolves, basically in the book, I talk about some of the historic examples of werewolf killings or werewolf activity. And the big one I talk about is from France, the Beast of Gévaudan. And this was like 18th century.
Wow.
And within the course of a year, it was like 1720 something, 1730. I'm not sure.
Not that far back on the grand scheme of time.
No, not at all. Not at all. And this was in southern France, the Midi area, and a lot of small villages. And for about the course of a year, there was some kind of they called a beast. They didn't know what else to call it. There was a beast that was roaming through these small villages and killed over 100 people within the course of the year. And it got to the point where, the villagers, as you can imagine, were living in sheer terror. The king was one of the Louis. I forgot which Louis. They all had numbers. Louis the 84th. I don't know. But, sent out the royal huntsman with a troop of soldiers to go down there to this area and try to find this thing. They had no luck. They killed something that was a pretty large wolf, and they came back. They stuffed it and gave it to the king in the palace in Versailles. And he said, "Oh, we got it now." He made this big proclamation. Everything's fine. We took care of everything. And then, of course, a week later, the killing started again. So they didn't get it. Nobody really knows what it was, except that the accounts were always that it was some kind of a large canine thing. It was the person that actually, as far as we know, historically, finally killed it was actually a local hunter named Jean Chastel. And it's hard to separate sort of legend from what he really wrote, but apparently he had a diary and he wrote some things about shooting this thing, and he described it as, again, like a canine, but a very large, big canine. But he said that there was something strange about the appearance of it. And if you go back to my story about the cave painting, this is what he said. He said that there was something odd about the feet, and well, they're not feet and hands. It should be paws, right? But he didn't call them feet and hands. He said they looked human. And again, the eyes too. He said the eyes were more like humans. So almost identical to what this cave painting was, also from France, by the way. I got to remember that. Neolithic times.
Wow.
This thing sort of mirrored that, although it was a wolf rather than a deer, but those same kind of features. And then there's also legend that he killed it using silver bullets. Well, that's the old werewolf thing that came in later. I don't think that was true. But so once he killed this thing, the killing stopped, but it was over 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
And what was it? We don't know. And unfortunately, no one knows really what happened to the cadaver once he shot this thing. It'd be nice if that had been preserved somewhere, But there's a museum in one of in these little small villages. There's a museum dedicated to the beast, and you can go in there, and it's got a diorama showing you the villagers and doing all this kind of stuff. And the bottom line is that people in that area still think that it was not just a wolf. They do think it was part human in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So there's cases like that. And then the case in India that we talked about with these wolves. But then there's also lycanthropy itself, which is just a medical condition, I shouldn't say medical, it's more as mental, psychological condition, which people just believe that they've transformed themselves into wolves. And so they act out that way. They go around on all fours, they growl at people, they snap at people, they bite people, but nothing's happened to them. You look at them, they're not growing hair, they're not sprouting fangs and claws.
No, not like the movies, right? Where they're transferring and making you into one.
Not at all. But there were several cases in Germany and in France, probably in the 1500s, 1600s, that I report in gruesome detail in the book, but about people who went out believing that they had transformed into wolves and killed other people, but literally with their bare hands, and ate them and savaged the bodies just like an animal would do. And in the early days, like in the 16th century, when these people were caught, they were immediately executed, considered to be, possessed by demons or witches or whatever. Later on, a little more modern times, 16th century or so, they started locking them up, just realizing that these people were, they weren't possessed or anything; they were just crazy,
Right.
But were they crazy?
Well, yeah. I mean, you have a whole array of people behaving the same way. You have to think maybe there's something in the water. I don't know, but
No, exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah. Sorry, Amelia, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was just thinking with a different kind of mind. Like I'm thinking, I wonder if some places they really didn't have anything, but people could have used it. Like leaders could have used that kind of fear and perhaps have people killed so that it looks like they come in as a hero back then. In those times, it wouldn't be strange for something like that to happen, right? To say, "Oh, we have this issue too, and I'm combating it, and you should have me as your leader." I could see that going on, which is really sad. But I mean,
possibility.
Well,
it's politics, right?
There was a movie that I saw called The Beast, a French movie, and it was maybe 10 years, 12 years old already. But the plot was interesting. It was the same thing, this Beast of Gévaudan, but their whole explanation in the movie was that people in France were losing interest in the Catholic Church, which was the state religion, right? And that they were just falling away from the church and becoming, agnostic or atheist or whatever. And so to get people back into the church leaders created this beast. What they did is they took this basically like a hyena or something from Africa, and it had a pup. And from the day one when they had this pup, they trained it to be like an attack hyena.
Jesus.
And
which already is in its own nature. So imagine,
Right. And they outfitted it. They had like this, they made a suit for it. So it had like fangs and claws and like spikes and all this stuff. And they let it roam around, killing people. And the reason was they were saying that this was God punishing all you people for dropping away from the church. If you come back to the church, we can defeat this beast because it's a demon and all this kind of stuff. I mean, this was a far-fetched explanation. But it was made for a very interesting movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Everything's based on a little bit of truth.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Like, I mean, I guess primitive times. I mean, there's a big difference between. I mean, a hyena has a specific look about it, but they're really aggressive animals altogether. You know, but
ugly, but yeah.
yeah. Okay, so we're just gonna go off track 1
Sure.
minute
Hello,
because
Dolly.
yeah, we were speaking ETs a few minutes ago, so I just want to address this one.
Absolutely. ETs employ using psychic alternating of perception to avoid dangerous contact. Those who would do harm to them are deterred.
They're deterred. So do you think then that some of these people who are shapeshifting or projecting that, do you think it's maybe to protect themselves?
I think there's a reason for it, and I think the reasons can be varied.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think of a shapeshifter, well, first of all, when I think of the popularity of shapeshifters, the fact that they're in every culture, that they go back, like I said, at least the Neolithic period, prehistory. And here we are in 2022 talking about shapeshifters, and I just put a book out, and there's shapeshifter movies and books and TV characters and whatever. So they're still very much with us. So I always ask the question, why? What is it in that shapeshifter character that appeals to us so much? And I think it's because the shapeshifter allows us to become something that we're not, or to fill in the gaps. Like I say, maybe it's to protect ourselves, maybe it's to make ourselves stronger, make ourselves wiser. You obtain some wisdom in a different form. You know, I think in a way it's to make up for maybe something that we feel we are lacking, or something that we need, like you say, maybe defense. And so I think that's why the shapeshifter character is out there. I mean, I think that's why we still talk about it, because every one of us at some time in our life has said, like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not handsome enough, I'm not beautiful enough, you know, whatever. Maybe it's just me. I'm hoping other people can relate to this.
I can relate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here you go. I got your back.
Okay. So I'm saying is I think it's something about the human condition that the shapeshifter allows us to do. I mean, think of the novel, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? You have Dr. Jekyll, who, despite his kind of weird sounding name, is really this great guy. He's very moral. He's religious. He's a doctor. He takes care of people. He treats people. He's kind to people. That's his whole thing, life-saving. Yet, despite all that, something in the back of his mind is saying, what if I throw off all the bonds that hold me in check? What if I can throw off the law, my morality, my sense of religion, all that? What if I can get rid of all that and just go, run naked through the woods and howl at the moon? What would that be like? So there was that attraction to that dark side. And that's Mr. Hyde, right?
Right.
And I'm going a little bit off, not so much, but I'm thinking that we all we're animals. I mean, whether we like it or not, we are animals.
Primal. Yeah.
And I think for the most part, what keeps us in check and prevents us from going crazy are all the bonds that we put on, all the bindings of religion and laws and morality and conscience. We put all that on it, right? But there are people that can throw that stuff off, and they become monsters. And I don't necessarily mean physically, but they become Jeffrey Dahmers. They become Adolf Hitlers. They become name it. I mean, which is sort of, to me, that is kind of shapeshifting. So I think the shapeshifter I think what it offers us is two things. It could be a positive. It's not always a negative thing. It could be positive, because by transforming, like I say, you can transform into something better. You get better knowledge. You can learn more about yourself, whatever. But at the same time, it allows you vicariously, maybe, to sort of take a walk on the dark side, if you want to say that. You watch a shapeshifter movie, or you read a book or something, and you say, oh, would that be pretty cool? But you don't do it.
Right.
Don't do it. You read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but you don't say, boy, I'm going to be Mr. Hyde now. No, you say, oh, wow, okay, I get it. I don't want to do that. So,
right.
But it allows you to experience that sort of vicariously, almost like a release of a pressure valve in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think in a sense, us ladies are shapeshifters with our nails and our makeup and stuff like that. I just thought I'd put a lighter spin to this because I'm going to have nightmares. Anyways, no, I agree with you. There is different perspectives on that. And why can't it be real? I mean, it's so hard when someone says to me, do you believe in this or do you believe in that? I'm like, I talk to dead people. I'm the last one to judge whether or not someone else's thoughts or perceptions are real, or you know, I believe that everything and anything can exist. That our existence is in a very, very small space, a lot smaller than we realize when you look at vast oceans and forests and things like that. We don't know what's in there. We really don't. So
true enough. Here's a great comment from Tamara.
Yes, Edgar Casey said the Atlanteans could change like shapeshifters when they first came here.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't either.
No.
She's a wealth of information, by the way, Tamara. Yeah.
But again, we're getting into the ancient cultures. You know, when you're dealing with the Atlanteans or the ancient Lemurians, they came with, you know, allegedly, because, you know, apparently I was there, but I don't remember. But, you know, do you know you were in Atlantis one life? Sure. And I remember it? No. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that they could shapeshift. Then, I mean, what kind of technology did they come? They were said to have been here with all kinds of advanced technology. So could it be a technology thing?
That's interesting. I don't know. Medical technology, biotechnology. I mean,
right? Yeah, because I mean, they were both, you know, a lot of the ancient races or ancient cultures like that were said to just supersede, you know, with advanced technology, and some of it, you know, remains, and some of it is lost, you know, forever. And
so sad. It's like we're going backwards instead of forwards.
I know.
You know, like technology, we should be so much further ahead than we really are. Sometimes I think it's humanity, it's greed that we keep getting kind of 2 steps forward and 3 steps back with this. I don't know. That's a whole other show.
It is a curiosity. Is there something out there that can aid in doing this? Let's face it. It's all over the world, like you say. All these ancient cultures. It goes back, you know, thousands of years, literally. So, where did it? I mean, you found what you believe is the base where it all began with the deer.
I'm not sure that doesn't begin before that.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
You know?
I agree. Because, I mean, we go back like hundreds of millions of years. We're not the first kick of the can here.
Yeah. I mean, with the deer, I think that's sort of maybe kind of the first representation that we have, because it's a cave painting. But who knows how long that had been going on previous to that painting? It could have been thousands of years. Who knows? Maybe
there was a race of shapeshifters. Maybe what we see today are little snippets of DNA that have just made their way through time, I guess.
I think that's what David Icke is saying, that, you know, the according to his
theory,
the original reptilian alien shapeshifters, mating with whatever was on our planet, did in fact create this strain of DNA with little shapeshifting gene attached to it somewhere, you know?
Yeah. So, well, I think you notice it a lot. And again, with David Icke, but how many people end up with their eyes that change? Or, you know, some will get slits in their eyes. Some will just have their eyes change colors. That's got to be a form of shifting, I would think.
Sure, I would imagine so.
You know?
And I mean,
That goes back to the reptilian theory after, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With
I mean,
the slits. Yeah.
My eyes change colors. I'm human.
Yeah.
They do.
Contact lenses, new contact lenses.
Yeah, see, there you go. No, but people with green eyes are said to be able to go blue, let's say, or go like a slate, or their eyes can change colors.
Right.
But I don't know. Again, we're getting into, so Jennifer says, maybe getting into shape shifting again, ability to cloak and shift.
Yeah. Hi, Jen. You know what I watched on TV and I was really, really surprised that I had to research it? Scientists say that there really isn't an eye color. It's the way the strands of your eyes come together and the light hits it and reflects it that determines the color of your eye. It's how the strands connect more than the base
brown.
color. No, but that's because you have a lot of strands open, so a lot of light comes in, so it reflects back that color.
Interesting.
So it made sense because I have hazel eyes, so I was trying to figure out why is certain lighting, my eyes look a different color, and so on. And I was really surprised and shocked to hear that, but it's a medical study and it's from an optometrist, and I thought, wow. I always thought, it's genetic as to how the strands open. When they were talking about it, I go, that is almost like white light. All light is white. It's just the way things and moisture reflect off of it, which is snow, rain, rainbows.
So as we become more advanced using that theory, as we become more advanced, do you think we're just noticing that people can do this more? Do you think like there's a select few, or do you think maybe we're just noticing more because we're all evolving? That's a pretty special ability.
Yeah, for sure. I do think, I think part of the technology too, like especially medical technology, biotechnology. I mean, we're cloning now. We're taking, creating duplicates. That's not shape shifting, but boy, I mean, if we're able to do that, is it possible that we could actually be able to change something into something else? I mean,
I agree. Do you think maybe that's what some people are seeing?
Could be. I don't know. Already out there, you mean?
Yeah.
Good government work again, conspiracies. I don't know. Who knows?
Well, they're cloning. I think they've talked about it.
Well, they use the reasoning being for organ harvests and stuff like that in the beginning, and then they started doing other stuff which we don't know anything about, which is scary.
I like even just sort of, I don't want to call it every day, but the medical technology that we read about in the news, nothing conspiratorial.
No, exactly.
It might be somebody will take some, pig cells and put it into a mouse or something for research. Well, okay, you just took a pig and put it into a mouse.
Right there.
I'm just saying.
A little strange.
I'm with you on that one, John.
Poor mouse.
I am with you on that one. Yeah.
But isn't that kind of shape-shifting? I mean, if whatever you create from that in a way, I mean, they're not creating new entities, but they might be making some change on a very subatomic level or microscopic level, but it's a change. It's a shift of some kind, right?
Absolutely.
Right. There we go. I was wondering where that went.
I was wondering too. We shifted.
Somebody's messing with the soundboard. Yeah, we shifted.
Yes, because it's that time. It's that time in the show where we have to say thank you.
We have to say our sponsor
right here.
And station ID.
Yes. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live on 105.3 FM radio from the gorgeous city of New Orleans. Tonight's guest is John Kachuba, and he is here discussing his latest book, Shapeshifters, A History. There are 12 books by John Kachuba, and he is an award winner, so please check him out. Tonight, we'd like to, and every night, I'm losing it with this cold, I got to tell you, shout out and thank you to the amazing people at Folgers Coffee for fully sponsoring our show from day one. Thank you for your support and your continuing sponsorship. So make sure that if you are taking a break with us right now, that you're getting yourself a cup and chilling with us tonight. A huge thank you for our intro and outro to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker, award-winning composer and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp, and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. He is dropping pieces of his new albums out right now for Halloween. Stream or listen to our archives on the platform you normally use. And please remember to hit the subscribe and like us too buttons. It's free.
That's right. We say it every freaking show.
Come on. You're there. The listenership is there, but it's like, really?
I know.
Prove it.
Bubba's going to get us
I
in
hope
trouble.
I didn't butcher your last name. Can you tell me how to properly say it?
You said it exactly right. I always tell people, just sneeze. Just sneeze.
Just Kachuba. I like it. I like it. It's a fun last name.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I like it. I do. And my husband's name is John, so this makes it easy.
I gotta tell you, live in one of my favorite cities, New Orleans. Man.
Oh, you've been?
Love that. Oh yeah, several times.
Yeah,
love that city.
I want to go.
Yeah. Lots of I think that's where you would find a lot of shapeshifters is in New Orleans. There's a lot of stories of them, especially out near the swamplands. So are you able to do any research in New Orleans or the U.S. specifically?
Yeah, I haven't been there recently, but boy, I'd like to go. But there's a community of vampires in New Orleans.
There is.
They call themselves sanguinarians, though.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in Buffalo, New York, of all places, too.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that kind of strikes me. New Orleans, I understand. I've met with voodoo queens down there and everything else. I understand.
Way too close for comfort.
Buffalo, New York.
That's
close.
Behind Michelle's house and about 45 minutes away from mine.
Yeah. Also, Kelly says active in New Mexico.
Hi, Kelly.
Hello, Kelly. Yes. So, out of all the stories, out of all the different places where you've researched and all the stories that you've compiled or come across for the book, do you have any that are favorites or that just stand out more than others, maybe shake you up a little bit?
Well, I don't know about shaking me up a little bit, but I think the one that really appeals to me because, keeping in mind that I started with ghosts, for many years, I'm still doing that too,
right,
is the whole idea of Japanese shapeshifters. I looked a lot into this, and it's fascinating, their range of shapeshifters. Most of their shapeshifters are actually ghosts that shapeshift. That's an unusual twist.
Yeah.
I mean, here in the West, in the Western world, a ghost is a ghost. I mean,
that's right.
It doesn't do anything. Okay, it's a ghost. We got that, but it doesn't change anything. But in Japan, most of their ghosts, not about most, but a lot of their ghosts are shapeshifters. So, and frequently they come back to, again, sort of like the skinwalker, to seek revenge on somebody. So let's say it's a woman whose husband had an affair or something, and the wife finds out about it and she commits suicide, or the husband kills her or something like that, but she dies.
Right.
So she becomes a ghost, and then she'll come back and she will shapeshift, like into maybe the woman that the guy's having an affair with. So then she in turn can murder her husband.
Wow. So it's a revenge thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like Japanese.
Never spend a day in court. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So they had those kinds of, first of all, the Japanese have, we say a ghost is a ghost is a ghost for the most part. Japanese have hundreds of different names for ghosts because they have all these classifications of kind of ghosts. But they also have shapeshifters. Again, they're spirits that will shapeshift into weird things. Like, I don't even know what you call it, but it looks almost like a mandolin with legs. Like, what is that?
It's a with legs. Yeah, I don't know.
Them, it has deep meaning, and the symbolisms, because everything is symbolic. Their language, the way they write, everything. But Japan has some of the best horror flicks.
Yeah.
If you don't mind reading your films, they have some amazing films out there. I love watching them. I'm glad that you even brought it up, because they're just so interesting.
Well,
the
probably
culture.
because of this. I was gonna say probably because of stories like this.
Oh yeah,
they can make a dozen,
and it stays with the present generation. It's not like ours where they'll go, like them. It stays with the generation. They have these continued beliefs.
Right. But they get such strange things. They have this thing called a kappa, Kappa.
Yes, I've heard
it
of
looks
that.
like, when you see a drawing of it, it almost looks like kind of a grungy Kermit the Frog.
Yeah.
It's an aquatic thing, an entity of some kind, and its head has a slight depression at the top of the head, like a little bowl.
That's right.
And they have to keep water in it.
That's right. That's right. I know
that
so far. Yes,
that's crazy.
It's so unusual.
Right?
And these things are, they hang out in rivers and streams and all this stuff, and they could either be very good to you and help you out with something, or they'll kill you and eat you. So,
I think it depends on you, the person.
Yes, right.
Right.
And on what day you meet the kappa, because Wednesday is kill day. So you want
note to self: don't go near the river on a Wednesday
in
Japan.
But this is just an example of the the range of creatures they have that are shapeshifters, and like I said, and a whole bunch of ghosts that are too. It's a fascinating culture in terms of paranormal stuff.
It is, and they do a lot of ceremonial stuff to protect themselves from ghosts, and they're, really superstitious. I know when I was selling a house back in the day, I had a Japanese friend saying, because the number was like 44, they're like, no, evil number, get rid of the fours.
Oh my God. I'd be rushing into the 44. Yeah,
I know, but it was just like, they're very superstitious, and I think it would take next to nothing, but they're really terrified of spirits on an average. And look at suicide forest in Japan.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're terrified of negative energy, period. Yeah.
Right. And it's not just Japan. This is a lot of Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
I spent almost 2 months in Thailand and really got to know the people there, and almost every single person in Thailand carries with them some kind of a charm. Either they wear an amulet or something around their neck of some kind, or ladies will have it in their purse or something. But I remember sitting down with a college professor, and we talked. He's got a suit on, a tie and a jacket, and we're talking, and I mentioned this stuff about ghost belief and stuff, and he said, "Oh yeah, a lot of people believe that." I said, "Well, you're a college professor. Do you?" He unbuttons his shirt, and he pulls out an amulet. Says, "There's my charm."
Wow.
And it's just in the spirit houses in Thailand. Sometimes called ghost houses, in front of every building. Because you have to keep that spirit
appeased.
I forgot what it's called. Not a Jedi. Well, it doesn't matter. I forgot what it's called. But there's the spirit in the house. You have to keep that spirit in good shape. So you feed it, you pray to it, you give it incense, food every day in order to protect your house. Because
and that's a term, isn't it? Feed the ghost.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Well, you have the Hungry Ghost Festival.
Yes, that's right.
In all of Southeast Asia.
Yes.
It's definitely feeding them.
Yes.
And all over the world, they have offerings to the spirit world in the same kind of way. Right. And they also, if you look at other countries, like Turkey has the Eye of Horus. They have very strong belief system with that. So does Greece, and Italy has the horn. It has the pepper. Yeah, everybody, and then they have the Eye of Horus, but of course in Italy it's 18 karat gold. Go figure. But anyways, they always have to make something a little bit different and fashionable. I'm making fun of my own culture, so please no emails. But I just find it's hard to dispute that and say that this is lore, this is fake, when you see it all over the world.
It starts somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It starts somewhere. I've been in the paranormal field a couple of decades myself, so I completely understand, where you're coming from. I do have to commend you for stepping out of the paranormal box, though, and writing this book, because there's not a lot of literature out there based on this. Like, I don't think a lot of people have written about shapeshifters, aside from maybe specific ones like skinwalkers or wendigos or actual beings themselves. But you've actually gone out and really tried to obviously go back as far as you could, but all the similarities is, like, I agree with Amelia. You can't just discount something that all these cultures are having their own share of experiences, like anything else, right? That's supernatural, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was kind of saying. When it's ubiquitous, when you find it in every culture, I mean, the character itself might be different, but the basic idea is there.
Oh, like the lady in white, right, John?
Transformation.
Yeah.
It's in every culture. So, I mean, what is that saying to us? I mean,
Yeah.
there's something underlying all that.
There's a witch in every culture. There's a lady in white in every culture. There's some type of genie. There's all kinds of things.
Yeah. My Sicilian grandmother was a molybdomancer. Do you know what a molybdomancer is?
She got rid of the thing. Malokia.
Well, she not necessarily. She was a fortune teller by using molten lead dropped into cold water. It would take a shape.
That's a Sicilian thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Because she'd read a fortune. I'm going to have a child. Is it going to be a boy or a girl? Well, let me drop this in the water and see. It'll be a boy.
Nice and easy.
Right.
They take your jewelry and they do it too, like a pendulum. But they'll take your necklace and they'll know, and they play with it that way. And if it goes left, it's a boy. If it goes right, it's a girl, or whatever. I don't know because I've never done it, but I've had that done to me.
Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah. Yeah, they use your jewelry instead of a pendulum. Yeah.
Hold on right here. So I'm a bit slow on the uptake. Tamara.
I don't even know how to pronounce that. Gumiho? Oh, it looks like an L with these glasses. Okay, it's another fox that can be male or female that turns human.
Is this out of Japan also, Tamara?
I don't know.
Must be, because she just wrote that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what she had written here.
Foxes shapeshift usually into women in Japan.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's a kitsune, they call it, which is a fox, and frequently it's a seven-tailed fox. Yes. And they have a whole history about how they live, and they are big shapeshifters. They're not unlike they're sort of like trickster characters, kind of like coyote here among the native people have it. But I haven't heard that name specifically that she mentioned, but
she says
that's the name of one of them or something.
Right.
It's called kitsune, yeah.
So animals are definitely more than capable of shape-shifting, not just people per se.
Well, there's another one in Japan called a tanuki, and when you look at it, it looks sort of like kind of a cross between a dog and a raccoon. It's got like a big furry tail that's striped, but the body looks sort of dog. It turns out that there actually is a dog in Japan that is a takuni, and that's how it looks. Oh. But in the lore, they're shapeshifters. Now, I don't know what they think about when they see a real one. If they think it's a shapeshifter, maybe they do. I don't know.
Right.
Wow.
Right. I don't know. I
so interesting.
It sounds sort of cute and fuzzy to me. Like I can't.
No, it does. Well, yeah, when you see it, I mean, it's a cute, fuzzy little thing. And in fact, frequently you'll see like they're good luck and everything else too. So you might see a little statue of one outside a Japanese restaurant, and like if you rub his belly or something, it's good luck. So I mean, it's like, they don't seem to be
terrifying like on this side of the world.
It's on the signs for a sushi restaurant nearby. Yeah.
That's kind of the point I was trying to make, was that, when we think of shapeshifters here in America and maybe Western world generally, I think we tend to think of them as always being evil, and monsters and killers and all, which is not necessarily the case.
Right.
I mean, throughout the world, shapeshifters, other shapeshifters are beneficial. They help people. They're not always, beasts and monsters, but we like monsters,
Well,
they're a little more intriguing than the ones that have pet bunnies and stuff.
We certainly do, for sure. But I guess we can go back to like wizards. There's a lot of history or stories about Merlin the magician, for example, who was said to be able to shapeshift. But I mean, apparently he existed. There's allegedly proof that he existed. So again, were we looking at illusion? And it only comes to mind because we were talking about skinwalkers and how shaman and witches are the ones who can allegedly do this. So again, when you're sitting there doing mushrooms and so on, makes you wonder, like, are you feeding everybody else the mushrooms, and do they really think you can do it? Or, are these things really happening? And that goes back back to medieval times. And, he was a master of his craft. See, not so cute and fuzzy though. So,
right. Well, and I like, if you read the Arthurian legends, and Merlin does this great deal of, he changes Uther Pendragon into the husband of Lady Igraine, and next thing you know, there's Arthur.
Right.
That's a pretty good shape-shifting, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like he was, there's many stories of him shape-shifting, and it's just one more piece of lore that is very intriguing. So I don't know. I think I really enjoyed this conversation. Like I said, you're the only person literally who I have seen to date that has actually written about this and researched it. And I'm hoping that, you'll do more crazy things outside. Seriously, people like, wow, this is great. It's like, right? I know.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're slowly inching, towards our quitting time. Let everybody know where they can buy this book, your other books. What do you have coming up? Are you writing something else? Just promote yourself.
Well, I appreciate the fact that your little crawler on the bottom there has been putting my website out. And, that is one place where you can buy all my books, obviously through the website. But you should be able to get them for the most part in, probably most bookstores, maybe independents more or whatever. You can get them on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Walmart.com. Any of the online brokers, have it as well too. So they shouldn't be hard to get.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm going to be. I'm working on right now a trilogy, which is more. It's not nonfiction; it's fiction. It's more a fantasy, paranormal kind of trilogy.
Oh, very nice.
But I have a book coming out next year, which I'm really excited about because it's for middle grade readers.
Okay.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Like aged maybe 10 to 13.
Yeah,
so
lovely.
That's excellent.
It's a ghost story, and it's based on a real location. And I've got 11 grandkids, so I want them to read something.
Oh,
so, that's beautiful.
But that, it's new for me because, like I say, it's a whole new audience for me.
It's not an audience that has had enough of that. I think it's fascinating that you're doing that, and it's such a beautiful thing for your grandkids as well. We haven't had anybody or anything since Scooby-Doo. Really. Think about it. There really hasn't been anything. Scooby-Doo, the Hardy Boys were crime investigators. Nancy Drew did a little bit, but this generation coming up right now doesn't have much of anything.
Yeah. And they need to be scared.
I think it's a beautiful way to nurture their imagination and help them grow.
And scare them. And scare them.
Well, it depends, right?
Well, John, thank you so much for joining us. It really was a pleasure. And I do apologize that it took so long. Blame social media, because honestly, somewhere out of the blue, up you came. I was like, what?
Well, that happens. And thank you both, ladies. It was a great time. I had a good time here too. And Yeah, better late than never, I guess, right?
Oh my gosh, perfect
absolutely.
timing.
We're going to keep,
That's the way I
yes, it
see it.
is. We're in
Thank you.
spooky month.
Thank you
I
so
know.
much.
And we're going to keep an eye on you. So
All right.
we have an open door policy. So you let us
All right.
know.
Well, you know where I am. I might shapeshift next time, though. So
That would be
Okay.
so cool.
We're
premiere it here.
expecting that too.
yeah. Well, happy Halloween anyway. So.
Happy
As
Halloween
well.
to you too. Let us know when that book comes out.
I will, definitely.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, take
Good
care.
night. Well, that was a fantastic show. My gosh, I was really serious about that. We have not, I certainly have never seen anybody research shapeshifters to this degree. And who knew that there was actually documentation? You know, even if it is on the cave wall, somebody had to put it there. That is pretty amazing. And that's going way, way back. But wow, it was great. Just a pleasure to have him on. And thank you very much, John, for sharing your story with us. And thank you to Folgers. And thank you to Justin Snicker, Dr. Snick. And thanks to all of you guys in chat room. You make it a lot more fun. And we love to include you in the show. You make it that much more fun. The guests enjoy it. We enjoy it. So thank you. Again, please, no matter where you're watching the show tonight, please show us some support. Subscribe, follow, like, join, whatever the case may be. We really appreciate you for it. If you're looking to contact us, please do so via email, theouterrealmcontact@gmail.com, theouterrealmcontact@gmail.com, or just go to the Outer Realm Facebook page, click email us. Yes, that's new. And it'll come right to us. Tomorrow night, we welcome back Mark Ollie, all the way from the UK. You guys loved him the last time, to the point where he's booked at least 4 or 5 more times throughout 2023. And tomorrow night, he's going to be keeping with the whole crazy spooky month. He's going to be talking about wizards and witches and vampires and everything that goes bump in the night. So make sure you guys tune in, and we will see you all tomorrow. So behave. Hopefully we're feeling better, but if not, we're champions. We'll be here to give you some darn good entertainment. Take care, guys. Good night.